I'm Marlene Gerber-Fried. I've been a professor here since 1986 and also was the CLPP director during that same period until very recently when I became the acting, now interim, president of Hampshire. So when I came into into CLPP, there wasn't really a structure for having the conference, and certainly nothing like what you all are participating in and have created now. And at that point, the breadth of issues was not as wide as it is now. It was the beginnings of broadening out. But the first conference, I think there were like 35 students there, mostly from the Northeast, from more private colleges. So it was a pretty undiverse, small gathering.
It's really a fabulous and exciting time to be on the Hampshire campus. I mean, we have over 1,000 activists from all over the country here and also international activists. It's really a space for creative political thinking, for thinking about the future of our movements, for crossing movements, having cross-movement conversations, for bridging differences between us, for exploring those differences in a safe space. It's also a place where people can speak out about their experiences with abortion and feel safe about it.
Yeah, so Leticia and I are the co-coordinators this year, which means we lead the student group, we plan student group meetings, we organize things like t-shirts and tote bags for the conference, feedback on all of the workshops and the 7 committees of students, transportation for speakers, doing childcare.
Let's just say that the campus is there's just so much energy and vibration on the campus with activists and artists and social justice participants of all forms of the spectrum, people who really want to change the world in so many different ways, and you feel that once you get past several miles of trees and cows, you feel this energy instantaneously.
So I finally got things together and put in I believe an application to speak, and was able to come. Have spoken at 2 or 3 of them now, I think. I think the CLPP conference is incredibly unique in that it values experience in a lot of different ways. The speakers are not just academics and not just people who are executive directors of organizations. People who I've seen speak there have all sorts of different experience, whether it's in activism or community organizing in their community, and all different levels of educational attainment, and that's something that's really rare at conferences.
Well, I think one of the most exciting things for me was driving onto campus and seeing the signs directing you where to go, and somehow those signs really drove home for me that this was a serious thing that was happening. It wasn't, that it was really big, and a lot of people were going to be here, well over 1,000 activists from all over the country. It wasn't just a Hampshire College event. I think usually the first event I would go to before I started working here, because I would work until the end of the day on Fridays, was the Abortion Speak Out, which is Friday evening. And you would walk into the room and it was packed wall to wall with people who were just there to witness people telling their stories, their personal stories with abortion. And that was always such a incredibly powerful event for me, and it really started the weekend kind of grounding our activism in our personal lived experiences, in the wide variety of ways that people experienced abortion and described it and contextualized it, and from across generations. I would sit there and I would think about my grandmother who had an abortion before it was legal in the 40s, and my mom who had one in the 70s, and all of those eras and those different types of stories would be represented by the speakers, as well as people I was going to school with at the time or who I knew.
Wow, CLPP is turning 30. I think that it is solidifying what movements look like throughout the decades and how much they change.
To just be able to endure through so many different ups and downs of politics and economy is really a testimony to the generations of students who have been through this and who have built the program.
I mean, the same fires there's definitely a lot of conversations happening intergenerationally with a lot of youth that are being involved. So that's students as well as the youth that are coming from all over the U.S. and globally, coming together with older folks that have seen the movement from its, beginnings 30 years ago. And I think what that does is sort of allow us to look back while looking forward. Of course, 30 years ago, you're talking about Roe v. Wade. You're talking about this amazing movement happening with second wave feminism, with, the civil rights movement. It just blew shit up in this country. LGBT folks taking stand. So all of these things were just beginning in a sense, and things were really starting to shake up. And now what you're seeing is the sort of aftermath of that. And the grandchildren and children of the movement are now really being the ones that are taking charge these days. So it's really a great place, I think, to have conversations that meet in the middle with people that saw it and with people who are benefiting from what happened 30 years ago, what happened 20 years ago.
What's interesting is I often am talking to even, say, people of my generation or people who support the conference, funders, or anybody, and I say, okay, if you feel really depressed, especially people who are working in Washington, who are really down and out these days, and I say, if you want to come and feel that you are part of a movement that has vitality, it's dynamic, and that it is attracting new generations. I mean, I cannot bear to hear one more account of how young people are not engaged, involved, paying attention. They just need to come here and see it. Sometimes people have said, you're preaching to the choir. And I don't take that as a criticism. What I think is that the choir needs to practice. It needs to be reinvigorated. We need to sustain ourselves as activists. We need to grow as activists. And that's part of what the conference is doing for people. So it's a real shot in the arm. Come.